big exclusive economic zone. It is an island which is surrounded by oceans. So many of the technologies or the applications which you are telling here is applicable to Mauritius as well. So this is the new future of global space. We are going for internationally new generation space satellite systems. Manufacturing in space, that is at the in orbit or in space. We are doing the manufacturing, small satellite constellations, and we are talking about IT, how the space-based solutions can enable IoT, automation, and governance. So these are the things which we are now discussing globally. And if you see, this is the forecast, global space economy. In 2047, what is forecast is 1.5 trillion will be the space economy. So what India can do? Right now, it is only 2%. Our space economy right now is 360 billion. Out of 360 billion, only 2% is the Indian space economy. Now, future, we are targeting, our wish is by 25 years, we have to be a big major player in the space economy. And these are the areas we want to concentrate. One is space manufacturing, which includes ground equipment as well as launch vehicles. And second is the satellite data. Therein comes the IT. Second order impacts, the space data, how we can use for the second order impacts like traffic management or satellite or transportation or smart cities, etc. Broadband services. So this is the area, satellite data industry and space manufacturing, which we have to concentrate. So data, there is why how it gets connected to space technology gets connected to IT with respect to space transportation, the data which is derived from the space, how it can use to be connected for vehicle-to-vehicle communication, in-vehicle, vehicle infrastructure, etc. Smart cities, similar kind of things, machine-to-machine linking, smart manufacturing. Manufacturing started from the traditional manufacturing to mass manufacturing to automated manufacturing. Now the totally integrated smart manufacturing. So again, the data is coming, and then again, space technology plays a key role. Sorry. So one is how we are integrating the IT and the space. Again, the global trend is business intelligence in every walk of life. Data as a service. We should have on-demand access to information. Again, the space technology comes in. Big data analysis in decision making. So in India, we have very good, strong IT, flourishing software industry. We have got a self-reliant space industry and very good internet penetration. So digital solutions for the technology-enabled governance. So the final goal should be zero government and the maximum governance. So thanks. So this is the final slide. Our space technology, this for shaping young minds, synergizing the national resources, as well as capacity building in a civilian space. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. I'll now call in Mr. Rashid Shawabai to please his talk. So, Mr. Shawabai is the Chief Officer of the Ministry of Information Technology, Communication and Innovation. Rashid.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Let me take this out. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this second session. And we are well in the ICT part, and we're going to have a presentation on development through digital technologies. Give you first at least an eye view of what's happening in ICTs in government in the country. Right. So just to give you a picture of where we stand, broadband penetration stands at 137%, and these figures are for December 2021. So meaning that the latest figures we have from the operators. Internet internet penetration stands at 143%. Mobile penetration is above 150%. Fiber to the home, as we know, is fully deployed in the country since December 2017. We also have a second backhaul since 2019. 5G services are running in at least 4 places in the country. So Eben, Bagatelle, University of Mauritius, Redui, and then at Trianon. And Mauritius is carpeted with some 350 Wi-Fi hotspots, right? And ICTA is in the process of having 250 more places that would be fitted with Wi-Fi services. Oh, okay. Right. In terms of government infrastructure, government runs a data center for its operations, which is called the Government Online Center. And we have about 80 racks fitted in that data center. Government services, if we look at it, we have about 200 sites which are interconnected. So government ministries and departments are interconnected. We have about 200 sites in a government internet system, a GINS. And we have a data sharing platform. So I'm moving from ground, moving to layers of data now because I was on the physical connections. Now moving into the data layer. And we have a data sharing platform for government. Now, how does the InfoHighway work? The InfoHighway basically is a platform that allows data to move from the one who has data to share, for example, a publisher, the one who has data, and the one who wants the data is called a subscriber. So that relationship between a subscriber and a publisher. So the subscriber requests for the data, and if it moves, yes. Makes a request for the data, and then that is responded through by the publisher. So basically, this is the concept. This is the relationship that exists in InfoHighway. But InfoHighway today is the infrastructure that is servicing around 575 services in government. So we have a number of services in government running on this, and it is basically the one that is driving everything that we're doing in government, whether it is MRA giving you the services of internet of the tax return, whether it is negative income tax, whether it is, I don't know, Ministry of Local Government, you're paying trade fees. Whatever service in government, usually today, most of them now, they're using InfoHighway to get the data so that we are able to serve our customers much, much better. Now, the second thing that we have introduced is also the MoCloud. The MoCloud is similar to Dropbox. So it's a platform where you can have accounts for, here it's an account for each citizen of Mauritius. So each citizen has an account in MoCloud, and within the account, they have documents that government has issued to them. For example, the birth certificate, the marriage certificate is already available there. It's online. You just open your account, you click on it, and you are there. You don't need to line up at the civil status division, pay 25 rupees, wait, and 25 rupees plus the stamp. So here it is online, it's done, and we are going now to add the driving license on it. It's already done that also. It's just a question of getting the approval from the traffic police. So the driving license, we have also the proof of address from the CEB, the Central Electricity Board. So we have a number of other things that are coming up. So it's a repository of government documents, government issued documents to citizens. But what is interesting with MoCloud is that this account is a citizen's account. And that citizen can, should an organization develop an application, share his documents with that organization. There is no other party involved in the relation between the citizen and the organization giving the service. I give you the example of a loan application. For example, Bank X is running a loan application. So the online application, the bank now needs to have the name confirmed, needs to have a proof of address. So the citizen gives consent because it's his own information. He consents to share with the bank online, and the information goes. Now, the important fact also is that the documents that are on the portal, on that MoCloud, they carry the digital certificate. So a digital signature. In fact, the digital certificate issued by the organization in which is issued the document. For example, if it's a birth certificate, it's issued by the Civil Status Division. So it carries a digital signature of the Civil Status Division. So you have proof that this document has not been tampered. This document is issued by the organization, which should be organized. And sign the document. The person can sign automatically within the application, and this is where the organization will give him a digital certificate on the fly. It's valid only one time. It's valid only for that transaction, and this is the e-sign that is provided by MoSign. So this is very interesting. It's also another innovation done by the ministry. Then we have the MoPass. The MoPass is a digital ID also, right? And MoPass is also a single sign-on for government services. MoPass today is not just serving government, it's also serving, for example, parastatals, which have applied to the ministry for usage. But MoPass is something that could have been used in many other quarters, because what is interesting, it gives you the access, a digital confirmation of that this is the person indeed with whom the authentication process is being done by MoPass. MoPass is going for a major update also, because MoPass will go for, you can call it CoPass, you can call it MoPass for Business, which is going to be the MoPass services for businesses, for companies, for legal entities, not just legal persons, not just the person himself, but this is the future. Now, to do all this, you imagine that we need to have a strong legal framework in place. So today we have a number of acts. I would say the founding one and the one that sets the tone for everything that we're doing today from starting point is the ICT Act, the Information Communication Technologies Act, which also sets up the regulator for the sector, which is ICTA. We have the Electronic Transactions Act, which is the one that gives us the possibility of having, for example, the certification authority. Right? All the electronic transactions part is under the Electronic Transactions Act. Electronic Transactions Act also makes it possible for public sector agency to share data with public sector agency, and also public sector agency to share data with private sector agency. Electronic Transactions Act gives you all this framework in place. Then, just to be complete, we have the National Computer Board Act, which is the founding piece of legislation for the setting up of the NCB. The Mauritius Innovation Council Act, which is this is the research innovation. So Mauritius Research Innovation Council Act, which is a piece, again, of legislation which gives birth to the MRIC. We have the Data Protection Act of 2017, which is an interesting piece of legislation because it is a Data Protection Act which is in alignment with the GDPR. So it brings in full alignment with the EU's GDPR. Among the latest is the Cybersecurity and Cybercrime Act, which was passed in December last, and it's the act which is in alignment with the Budapest Convention on Cybercrime and also the Malabo Convention on Cybersecurity and Data Protection. Yes. And also the Mauritius Emerging Technologies Council Act, which sets up the METC. rapidly, in terms of digital government, and so in terms of digital government, as you can see, we are first in e-government in Africa, fourth among SIDS. You have 200, almost 200 plus government sites, websites, 350 plus data sets, 85 plus e-services. So this is a rapid picture of the situation. And just to have a glance, a number of systems across ministries and departments, we have plenty of systems. So just a mention of them. Digital government projects, you can see these rapidly. In terms of connectivity, we are served with 3 submarine cables. A fourth one is coming by mid of next year. The FTTH mentioned, 3G, 4G mentioned. Connectivity, we also have a service where to be inclusive, there is a free internet service given to people on the social register Mauritius, SRM. Tablets have been offered to children and persons on SRM. And also we have challenges in terms, and that also to serve inclusive connectivity and also to serve classes online. Now, it's good to see where we are. It's good to see what we have done. But are there challenges in this picture? I think these are the things that we need to discuss about. And just to give you some pointers. Digitalization has been on the agenda of government for a long time. Since the 90s when we started to do digitalization government. But with the COVID, it has accelerated. And now we need to see how we can do more and how do we ensure that people take up our e-services, not just doing the e-services, but people using those e-services. So we have a greater challenge with that. How do we adopt agile methodologies, right, to deliver faster? How do we bring up the private sector with us to work together? Develop value-added services like data sharing, authentication, digital signatures. We've mentioned all this, but then develop and now making use of it. Adopt mobile and online payment services. The second challenge that we have is ICT skills. And this is not just in government, it's nationwide. So we have a shortage of ICT skills. We have a shortage we have an issue in terms of skills mismatch. But a lot of effort is being done. If you go to universities, they've been increasing their intake of students in ICTs, but it's not enough. Digital literacy, we need to do more. We're doing plenty of that in schools, and we've seen a lot of initiatives on that. And how do we attract foreign ICT professionals? So these are real challenges for us. Funding, as you can imagine, funding is a big problem. So what are the ideas? We get funding from government budget, the central government budget. How do we make space for ICPs to come in? Are there new ideas like crowdfunding? How do we tackle that? Keeping legal, and then the other challenge, and I think this one is also very much something that gives life to the changes in technologies. How do we ensure that our legal and regulatory framework remains up to date and remains abreast of changes and also being sometimes ahead? Because if you want to create new things, and we've seen that in the financial services sector where they came with the virtual assets and initial offering of tokens act, where they've been quite ahead, and so this is, I'm just at the end of it. Good. So I think with that, I leave you to the thank you.
Thank you, Rajnish.
So thank you very much. I leave you to the panel, which has a lot of work and a lot of discussion at the level. Thank you.
Thank you indeed, Rajnish. We now have the pleasure to welcome Mr. Satyom Siupol, which is currently the manager of RL Malak Technologies. But Satyom wears a lot of hats. He's an active member of the OTAM, so Outsourcing and Telecommunication Association of Mauritius. He is also a member of the Mauritius IT Industry Association, MITIA, and many others. So Satyam, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So we'll try in 10, 15 minutes just to talk about what we perceive from a private sector perspective, from the industry perspective, like private operators, like challenges and barriers with regards to adopting emerging technologies. So before, okay, I've got this here. Before moving directly to the challenges, I'll rather move on quickly, a recall on the trends. This one isn't working. Come on. Right, so just a quick recall. I mean, we're not here today to go back to what emerging technologies are about, but I'm more focused on the right side of this slide, which is about what do we need to accelerate growth, what do we need to sculpture the change, the infrastructure, and of course, what needs to be the underlying elements when it comes to emerging technologies. These are models that has worked. I have a tendency, and most of the times in every forum we talk, I have a tendency to talk about a lot of adoption and then adapting it, instead of recreating and reinventing the wheel, which is a waste of time many times and with a lot of inefficiencies. So when we have a look at this slide, we can see that AI, automation, total immersive experience remains at the core of growth. So this is something that we can't do without. It's a must. It's on the table. It's on the different agenda of different forums, associations, government, public, private. But what is more important, we need to look at it in terms of how we are integrating it in our economic infrastructure, in terms of how we're scouting the change, in terms of adopting each emerging technology in diverse spheres of our economy. The other element that comes more and more important is the engineering trust in terms of making application native with regards to cloud, making it cyber secure already, because we are already into that sphere. And data science becomes more and more important when it comes to emerging technologies. So this slide is just to lay the first ground for discussion later by the panel as well, because we won't be able to cover it overall. But this is something that I'd like just to push it further on the, next slide, which is a bit more abstract, but why I still kept it there, because there are a few elements that is required if we are to talk about digital economy, which I believe is something we need to consider adopting as fast as possible. And for us to be, I would say, right in terms of approach, to be objective in terms of where we are, we need to be severe and strict on our own assessment of where we are today. And with regards to that, we need to take into context what has changed over the past 2 years, pre-COVID, just pre-COVID, during COVID, and now where we are with COVID. So the hybrid collaboration becomes more and more an important element in our designing of our economic structure. The battle against ransomware, it might look very simple, but it's actually a big threat today in the cybersecurity space. We know lots of public and private organizations are still being attacked daily with ransomware, and it costs billions of dollars to economies worldwide. The carbon metrics remain a must. I think yesterday Abhinav spoke a lot about it. We got different speakers also spoke about it. This is something that remains a challenge for the industry with emerging technologies, with digitalization, with having more and more of carbon footprint. This is the paradox of adopting technology as well that we have to manage going forward. In terms of intangible value creation, I mean, this is something that we can see in Mauritius. We are late, and throughout my intervention today, I just wanted to say one thing. I spoke about we are late on certain things, but sometimes we say thank you for being late, because we're able to see what others has done, how we adopt it, and leapfrog directly to where things are already. If you look at what we saw the satellite ISRO team from India just explain to us, I mean, I'll go direct to the point and pragmatic on it. I mean, I think we have things to sit down and discuss with friendly countries like India, where they could help us in going faster on a number of emerging technologies. And one thing, maybe Chipeng will take it in his panel, I'm putting it just as a thought-provoking element. We talk a lot about emerging technologies, but I think we need to be honest. We are kind of emerging in all technologies as well. So for me, it's just about emerging technologies. There are a lot of technologies which has been out there. IoT is one of them. It dates back to 20 years. So we are emerging into all technologies right now. India is doing the satellite program, and surely we can emerge in there together with friendly countries. We'll come on that a bit later in our other slides. So in terms of what is private sector doing today, I mean, I'm not too artistic to just say what is private sector doing, because we are so dependent on the ecosystem, and the ecosystem is just not just private sector. It's public, it's regulators, it's capital, it's capital, the money market. It's a lot of things that gets together. So what are we doing? I must say, being part of the different industry associations, I mean, there is continuous investment for those in the sector. We are taking the risk. Those who can take maximum risk are taking the risk, because that's the only way for survival. We are doing calculated risk as much as possible. There are a lot of projects into labs right now, be it for private operators or for public operators. Development of use cases, emerging technologies. There's only one way to go about it. The testing is in the use of these pilots. This is something that we need collaboration from industry players. We need to be able to have access to companies willing to invest and test these models for us to make it happen. There are not many ways of doing it. I mean, we all know those days are gone in terms of huge white papers, blueprint, etc. It's more about the design thinking, co-creation. This is still very much valid in this world of fast-paced embracing technologies. Cyber resilience remain a major thing to focus on. I mean, there's good news this week. We are part of a conference where Mauritius has been chosen by the European Union to be the cybersecurity hub for Africa. In the 4 CyberNet, I think, Rajneesh, the program, Cyber 4D. So this is the European Union program where Mauritius has been chosen as a hub, and I think that's a massive win for us. We need to be able to build on that and position ourselves as a major player in that space. Customer experience, piloting 4.0 technologies. I think Chipeng will talk a lot about it. I'm not going to go in detail on that. But yes, again, as I say, it's an appeal. It's an ecosystem that needs to move with the same speed. It can't be one player is moving that speed, the other one is not in line with the speed we want to move on that. Before moving to the challenges, I'll quickly go on the vision, potential vision of where we all know in this room, where we want to be, where all of us want to see us playing. I mean, when we look at what's happening already elsewhere, Mauritius being a small place, we believe it's possible to have our footprint in certain of these areas, either in parallel or in a phased manner. So we believe that in terms of our Industry 4.0, smart manufacturing production, this is something that we need to adopt, and Chipeng has been doing it for like almost 10 years. We've been discussing about it. Very few industries has made the bold move towards that. Again, it depends on a lot of things. It depends on who is available to hold the hands of these industries to move towards Industry 4.0. We are now already talking about 5.0. It's already on the table. We're talking a lot about health tech, without any offense to anyone. I mean, there has been project for like 15 years on the table. And in terms of e-health, right? We know where we are with that. Hopefully this year, we're gonna reach the ultimate step. I mean, we hope, because this is something that's going to change drastically the ecosystem and the landscape of the country. It's going to be a major catalyst for many things. So we do wish this happening. There are other private players making some effort there as well, but we must say this is an area where we're really, really late. In terms of agri-tech, we are happy to say, I mean, last year with the collaboration of MRIC, even us at RL Malak, we were awarded an agri-tech solution for testing with the industry. We engage with the university, with the Chamber of Agriculture. We're moving now with pilots with different groups in terms of adoption of agri-tech technology. So this is looking good. We are moving there in terms of water management as well. We're just finishing the first phase of the CWA smart water distribution for districts, and ultimately it's going to roll out nationwide. Immersive technologies, I think we still depend a lot, not depend, but we can see in our economy, apart from hospitality, retail remains a major sector for circulation of money, and immersive technology has its place full-fledged there for us to modernize the way we do business. And regulation tech, we were discussing last night. I mean, This is a place where we have not played enough. We spoke a lot about blockchain technology. We spoke a lot about smart contracts. We spoke a lot, and it's a pity, and Rajesh said it in his challenges, in terms of the infrastructure that exists already today, and not necessarily people are making use of certain things, because where are the problems? Is it a lack of sensitization, awareness, engagement with the players? We have to, this is what the panel eventually will uptake later. And EduTech, I think we discussed a lot about it before. So I'll move on what I believe are, yes, challenges, but I'd rather put it in a more positive note, key success factors. I would rather say if we overcome these, it becomes, and we have to, because they become key success factors. So these are not new to anyone. And for me, when something is not new, it's not because we are doing a speech, we have to create something new to wow people. I don't think so. We just have to state the facts and go back to the basics. And the basics remains market maturity and readiness. Is the market ready to embrace emerging technologies? If not, what should be done? Should the engagement with the market change? Should we go to the market differently? I mean, these are areas we need to explore and look more at. The risk aspect, risk appetite of stakeholders, it's a factor as well. It applies very much to the private sector as well as to the public sector. We have a lot of forums, a lot of speech for the last 10, 15 years, but many times the risk appetite, when the paper comes on the table at the level of decision makers, there are 200 reasons why the project should not happen. Why we shouldn't go ahead, instead of, can we take the risk? Or if we take the risk, how we do go about it? So this is a cultural problem in terms of decision making. And this is why I mentioned the third point as leadership drive. It's ultimately about someone deciding and saying, this is where we're going to go. And in terms of emerging technologies, as much as it's co-creation, as much as it's collaboration among players, I believe someone needs to put his foot down saying, this is where we're going to go. That's what's going to cost us, with the risks and benefits, and let's go for it. It's just a program to decide and to learn and to fail and to succeed. I mean, this is ultimately where we need to be able to have more boldness. Availability of resources and experts, I think we've spoken about it many times, all of us. The only thing I have to mention here, and I think it's almost an outcry now, the country needs to open. We need to bring talent in the country. We shouldn't be afraid of that. We are missing talents. We're not able to, and I just spoke lengthily about it yesterday, about transferring knowledge of experts to the local professionals. This is crucial if we want to bridge the major gap that is being built day and years and years. So this is something that I believe there should be, again, a bold decision being taken about bringing in expertise in the country without any kind of constraints, or making it easier for people to come and operate here. Regulatory framework, yes, it's true. There has been a lot of recent regulations being designed to accompany the emerging technology. Even the council is there, the law is there, but we all know it's not enough. It's very simple to have a reading at it. If we look at the number of e-commerce transactions in the country, I mean, we can have an idea why it's not working. It's not necessarily just legal. It's about the consumer behavior as well. But there should be other means to encourage people to go to adopting technologies in a more safer manner. Cyber threats and resilience. Yes, it's never enough to say that this is required. Coherence in vision and actual execution. Again, it's like the normal dicton, we have to walk the talk. We can't keep having strategies. We can't keep talking about innovation and not walking the talk. I mean, time has come to become sober. Time has come to become humble. Time has come to see where we are not good and agree that we need to take some decisions, right? And I hope this Assises de l'innovation can consider those type of approach. So quick, this one I went on it. So I'll finish with that one slide, which about how can we go about it? We can't go alone in it. We are all into it, right? And for me, it's the complete ecosystem is responsible for that. From the universities, education, capacity building, to industries and markets having the right culture for adoption, decision making, and willing to take the risk with the people co-developing the solutions. Of course, people putting the money in there. Entrepreneurial resources required. This is something I must say, I can see Mauritius has this type of culture. We've seen last week in the Innovation Award ceremony. I mean, there was a young guy of 13 years old that won, I think, the award. And then which is a beautiful award that he won a project. And then we had a lady doing something wonderful with other type of agri remains. So I mean, this culture is there. So I don't think we're gonna waste too much time there. Infrastructure is moving. Regulatory, we spoke about it, and of course, clusters of innovation here. I'll just spend 1 minute on it. My last word, rather. When I say cluster innovation, I kind of brought that on the table last year at the Industry 4.0 conference. It's about really bringing stakeholders of one sector together. In a cluster, there could be multi-industries. If I take ocean economy as a cluster, we can have the agri sector there, we can have the financial sector there, we can have the energy sector there, we can have the technology sector there. So the cluster thinking, the cluster thought process should be somewhere on the table. And when we spoke about design thinking, when we spoke about co-creation in industries, it applies also to cluster innovation. So, and we know Mauritius today, we have to reinvent a lot our economic structure. We're stuck where we are with the classical, traditional revenue streams, and the new streams actually cluster thinking process. So that would be it for me in terms of thought process for the panel, and all the best.
Thank you, Satyom. This is really inspiring. And now we have a special request from Ignite in Pakistan. So they have sent us a short video on their ecosystem for pushing forward startups. So we will hear a short presentation of the CEO of Ignite Pakistan, Mr. Azim Hussain.
This conference will now be recorded.
Dear participants of the Conference on Research and Innovation 2022, which has been organized by Mauritius Research and Innovation Council and Ministry of IT, Communication and Innovation, good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the innovation and entrepreneurship landscape in Pakistan. I'm Asim Shahryar Hussain, CEO of Ignite National Technology Fund in Pakistan. Ignite is a public sector company with Ministry of IT and Telecom, which is focused on funding and promoting tech innovation and entrepreneurship in Pakistan. Our source of funding is 0.5% of the annual adjusted revenue of telecom operators in Pakistan. Ignite is fueling the knowledge economy of Pakistan through its different initiatives, including our national incubation centers. We have established a network of 5 incubators in different cities of Pakistan so far, and we'll be launching 2 more by summer of this year. Then DigiSkills is our online training platform for freelancers, which has received more than 2.4 million enrollments so far in 10 different freelancing courses. Third, we fund technical research and innovation projects in different thematic areas using 4IR technologies. And fourth, our national grassroots ICT research initiative, which funds final year projects of ICT graduates. Here are pictures of our 5 NICs at present. So top left corner is Islamabad, then Lahore, Peshawar, Karachi, and Quetta. And we'll be launching 2 more by summer of this year. These have been the results of our NICs so far. They have incubated around 1,000 startups, out of which 514 have graduated so far, creating around 114,000 direct and indirect jobs, out of which more than 2,100 are women entrepreneurs and employees. So our NICs are empowering the women of Pakistan also. These NIC startups have raised around $67.7 million in funding so far and generated revenue of around $37.4 million so far. Some success stories include Baikia, which is a delivery logistics service startup. Then Parkwete, they have a water filtration system. MyTM is a fintech startup. Integrity has an application integration solution. And then Digikata, which is another fintech startup. In May of last year, Ignite's National Incubation Centers were declared as a champion project in the Enabling Environment category by the International Telecommunication Union at the World Summit on Information Society Prizes 2021. So this was a big honor for Pakistan for Ministry of IT and Telecom, for Ignite and our NICs to be recognized at an international summit. Now, 2021 has been a remarkable year for Pakistani startups. In the whole of 2020, Pakistani startups had raised around $75 million. But last year in 2021, Pakistani startups raised around $373 million, mainly from foreign investors. So that was a remarkable growth of almost 5 times over 2020. And some big names include Airlift, Tajir, Educator, Finja, Retailer, Bazaar, and many other startups. There were around 80 plus deals. And leading international venture capitalists have invested in Pakistani startups last year. Some names include Kleiner Perkins, Y Combinator, 500 Startups, Buckley Ventures, Next Billion Ventures, Shuruk Partners, Draper Associates, and many others. The verticals which attracted investment last year include e-commerce around 26%, fintech 27%, transport and logistics around 4%, health tech 4%, retail tech 18%, and ed tech around 4%. And this year is looking even better for Pakistani startups. In the first 4 months of this year, Pakistani startups have raised more than $200 million, and some have done Series A and Series B rounds also. So Pakistani startups are maturing now, and our forecast is that they'll raise more than $600 million by end of this year. Going forward, I talked about our plans for launching new incubators in Faisalabad and Hyderabad, and we are planning new incubators in Multan and Sialkot next year. And then we also planning specialized or vertical incubators in areas such as avionics and electronics, gaming and animation, and health tech. And we are also conducting a study on the startup ecosystem of Pakistan in collaboration with Arthur D. Little and a local consulting firm to identify the areas where we can make improvements to further strengthen our startup ecosystem to attract more investors. Second, Ignite has a DigiSkills platform, which is an online training platform for freelancers, whose slogan is learn from home, earn from home. So we have received more than 2.4 million enrollments in DigiSkills over the last 3 years, and we are offering 10 free of cost courses, including graphic design, freelancing, digital marketing, AutoCAD, QuickBooks, WordPress, creative writing, search engine optimization, and e-commerce management. And we'll be adding 5 new courses in video editing and animation, vlogging, affiliate marketing, data analytics and business intelligence, and virtual assistant by July of this year. 26% of the enrollments were by female participants. Then third, Ignite funds research and innovation projects. We have funded around 150 projects over the last decade in different thematic areas, agri-tech, health tech, ed tech, using different technologies, including 3D printing, AR, VR, AI, big data, blockchain, robotics, IoT, wearables, and many of these projects have won awards and have been granted patents also, and they have raised investment also. Some of the success stories include Electrocure, which is a smart meter for preventing electricity theft. Then Bionics, which is Pakistan's first peritoneal dialysis machine, bloodless dialysis machine, where a patient can perform their dialysis at home. Then Wonder Tree, which is an AR/VR solution for improving motor skills of special children that is being used by different hospitals in Pakistan. And then Bakhabar Kisan, which is a platform for providing crop weather and disease updates to more than 4 million farmers on a regular basis. Then last year, Ignite had conducted this National Cybersecurity Hackathon in 3 main cities of Pakistan in 5 different categories, including application exploitation, mobile device exploitation, network exploitation, operating systems exploitation, and speed programming. And then the final round was held in Islamabad, where the top 3 teams from each city competed. and we gave cash awards to the top 3 teams in each of the 5 categories at an award ceremony. So this concludes my presentation. I want to thank Mauritius Research and Innovation Council and Ministry of IT, Communication and Innovation for giving me an opportunity to present the tech innovation and entrepreneurship landscape in Pakistan at present. I hope it gave you some idea of the work which is being done by Ignite and Ministry of IT and Telecom for promoting tech innovation and entrepreneurship in Pakistan. Thank you all and enjoy the rest of the conference.
So
Move on with the next session. So we call in Chipeng, and while Chipeng is setting up, I'd like the panelists to please join us on stage. I'll call upon Avinash, then Shiba, and then Jenny, followed by Dilam, then Nishti, Vikas. Last but not least, Roshan. Thank you. So Chipeng, the floor is yours.
All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I thought I was presenting to robots. Good. So without further ado, let's start.
2020 threw the world into chaos and economic turmoil. This year, we could see many positive developments and trends taking hold. Let's look at some of the top economic trends that we are likely to see emerge and or grow stronger. 1. Online boom. Online businesses are going to enjoy a boom for quite a while to come. This will provide plenty of opportunities for innovation and competition, all of which will ensure that the consumer emerges as the winner. 2. Growth in global trade. This year will likely see significant growth in global trade as supply chains normalize and new opportunities emerge. Also, a more trade-friendly U.S. administration, along with China now championing free trade for its own survival, could potentially work to accelerate this trend. 3. Increased inflation. Governments around the world have been borrowing and spending money to help battle the global pandemic. Such liberal increases the money supply, leading to increased inflation over 2021. 4. Rise in interest rates. As unbelievable as it may seem, all the cash that is slushing about in the global financial system will ultimately force central banks to increase interest rates in order to prevent economies from overheating or currencies from collapsing. 5. Drooping dollar. The dollar's days may be numbered. Russia is flush with foreign exchange and gold. The same with China, and while the US and the EU have been floundering about, Asia has been working towards liberalizing trade and driving economic growth. We could expect to see the dollar decline anytime soon. 6. A commodities boom and stock markets low. An increased demand for raw materials, food, energy, and precious metals is foreseen. Along with this, we will probably see presently massively overbought stock markets going in for a correction. 7. Innovation creates new breed of entrepreneurs. The pandemic has created many problems to solve and put many in challenging economic circumstances. These are the drivers of innovation, and we are likely to see a new breed of entrepreneurs emerge out of this crisis.
Okay. The reason why the panelists are on the stage is because we need to do fast tracking. As you know, I do quite a bit of project management and leadership training. This is putting it in action. Now, what we want to do now, this is my ex-boss. I came from Accenture, as some of you know. To be precise, 52%. So what is going to happen to the 48% remaining? It applies to Mauritius as well. So the answer is blowing in the wind, right? So the future is here. A lot of us do not believe it. And the problem with the future is as follows. If you take a look at this guy, who is a top-notch surgeon in China, and this guy, there is a screen and just an arm, is a robot. Whenever he wanted a scalpel of any size that he has in mind, you just have to look at the robot, and the robot gave the right size scalpel. My friend, does it remind you of anything? Your wife, right? For the guys that is married here. When your wife gives you just a look, you know exactly what not to do, right? So that is how it has become. So for the guys that's not married, I'm very worried now. Maybe we do not marry human now, right? Maybe we marry robot. So because of that, my friend, one of the things is to, very importantly, as spoken by all the speakers, is to have a balanced life. Yes? Yes, and this is how a balanced life look like. So you balance work, life, and your wife as well, right? So this is how we get things going. So joke aside, no laughter whatsoever from this room. Huh? So we got to get you tested, whether you're a robot or human. So let me quickly run through. My presentation is only 5 minutes. What is Industry 5.0? And why are we no longer talking about Industry 4.0? And what is the differential, right? So in order to do this, let's do a flashback so that you know we are very consistent. The 9 pillars of Industry 4.0 launched by the now retired Chancellor Merkel in 2011, while most of us are sleeping, or were sleeping. So the tagline that Germany used in the CNN advertisement is the system that works, right? I don't know whether you missed those advertisements. So, but then life has progressed. From 9, it became 11. There are 2 things I like to highlight to you. First is supply chain. Why? Because COVID-19 brought along a few things. And secondly is the fact that we need new business model, right? So this is what is happening now. But then, do you know what's the end game of Industry 4.0? Right? So if I were to ask you, what is the humanness frontier? And what would be your answer? Because I don't have time, I'm not going to wait for your answer. And the answer is, my friend, 2060. And this is how the forecast has started since 2017, when Satyam and me teamed up with the rest of the panelists here, some of them, to launch the first primer in Industry 4.0. So since then, 5 years on, we have got better feel how this industry is moving forward, and we know the end game of Industry 4.0. The question is not, Chiping, would this going to happen? That is the wrong question to ask. Rather, the right question to ask is, if Industry 4.0 is CPS, and it's written up there what is CPS. So how does Industry 5.0, which is known as CCPS, going to change our life, right? So first question is, if Industry 5.0 is connective CPS, because the first word here is connective, yeah? Therefore, Industry 5.0, therefore, is a connective Industry 4.0. Chiping, what is connective? Connective is, if you go by any well-known encyclopedia, is intellectual thinking. And for those of you who study psychology, and I know we got a psychology expert on the panel here, human got 2 brains, right? Yes? First brain, second brain. Let's talk about the first brain. There are 3 parts to the first brain. And the last of the 3rd part is called neocortex. And the definition of neocortex is that particular part of the brain that do the learning and thinking. So my friend, a lot of literature also say neocortex only exists in human the last 2 to 3 million years. It didn't exist at all in animals, which I disagree, but let's go with the definition first, right? So therefore, Industry 5.0 is human-centric Industry 4.0. And if we push this logic a bit further, therefore, Industry 5.0 is human technologies. Why do we push this agenda? If you do not push this agenda, you are realizing the agenda of the previous page. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about your children, and I'm talking about your grandchildren, right? So that is what is on the table today. So to look at this, we ask the question that Satyam posed just now. What is the critical success factors in ensuring Industry 5.0 succeed? Because if you are human, you need Industry 5.0 to succeed, right? So the answer is faith, unfortunately. A lot of animals also got faith, right? Unfortunately for us also. So how do we go towards empower human? So now we got to distill what is required since COVID-19. Why COVID-19 happened? It allows us to reset. Why did God allow us to reset? Is the agenda bigger than you and me? So if we are resetting, why not resetting correctly? Right? That is the point here. So once we distill what is in Industry 5.0, we came up with the 2 DNA strands. One is resilience. That all of you know. Otherwise, most of the companies in this room would not have been here after 2 years of almost zero revenue, negative growth and whatnot. Secondly, enough said, most companies still survive. That's called ability to sustain. But how long more? That depends on your level of resilience, right? So to wrap up, we are in the business now of developing leadership. They have very high adversity quotient because that is what set you and those companies that have gone bankrupt in the last 2 years. You are able to withstand all these challenges, right? So whether you have human touch, whether you're agile, whether you're resilient, whether you're sustainable, it's a separate story altogether. So the $64 million question, the black elephant in the room is whether you are able to adapt to this new model. And quickly take a look on the column of Industry 5.0. The last bullet point is people. So my friend, it used to be, we must take care of our own people. It's a cliche. It's nice to have, nice to hear. But today, if your business is not going to be based on that, I wish you luck because the days are numbered. So how do we now prepare to survive in the next 3 years? Satyam and me, we are still focusing on 2025 readiness because we know that is the tipping point. So apparently one answer given by COVID-19 is, hey, you produce to need. You do not overproduce. The other way to talk about it is demand driven. That everybody know, right? So ultimately what we are trying to say here is, that's why I started with the robot, right? We are crossing the collaborative robot Rubicon. We have crossed. Some of you might not be there, but we are there already, right? So in order to understand the implication of Industry 5.0 better, let's conclude and ask. Civilization has survived many, many times over since Industry 1.0. Agree? There were many Diwali celebrated in the last 7,000 to 8,000 years. The next Diwali will be celebrated. That is how I want to start this argument. So can we survive? Yes. What does it take to survive? Look into the mirror, and these are the things we got to watch out for. One, digital mindset. So my panel today, distinguished one, will be talking and elaborating on this. They are more eloquent than me on this aspect. But the cry of the heart, the cry to demand attention will be predicated on, are we resilient enough to make prosper thy neighbor happen? If today you are just inward looking, me only and me also, I think you are quicking the pace to realize what is predicted to happen in 2060. And to summarize, how do we draw courage from fear? We have spoken about digital economy, PMI, whom I happen to know a bit more than you, always have been speaking on project economy. And see what they say. If today you are not PMTQ driven, you are finished. Everything you do must be automated in many ways. If you are still very manual oriented, then we will be in a bigger challenge. That's why we assemble a team of very strong panelists today to share with you for the first 5 minutes their thoughts on this. And let me then start with what we intend to achieve. We intend to achieve a digital society that is human-centric, that care for each other, nice to hear, difficult to put in place, and at the end of the day, we are not here to share burden. We do not need aids and donation. We are here to share responsibility. With that, thank you very much. I just want to say, as we emerge out from the darkness of COVID. Singapore, Malaysia is declaring no mask come 1st May. Australia say don't do PCR, we don't want PCR. Singapore also say don't do PCR because we can't verify the source of the PCR. So it's up to us now to define the darkness as we wish. We can serve with light, you be the light, or we can bring hope. So with that, thank you very much. I'd like to now ask the support staff to put on the panelist slide. And time check, we are right on track. Okay, I managed to salvage some time. And without further ado, let me first explain what we are trying to do. You saw this before, so we are here to resolve this particular challenge. And all these panelists you have seen for the first half of this discussion, before we break for coffee, is to address the black elephant in the room. What has digitalization got to do with Mauritius surviving with the similar trend in other countries? So without further ado, I'd like to invite Avinash to share his thoughts. Avinash, they will be seated because it's supposed to be a panel discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Chipeng. Welcome everyone. Very happy to be part of this panel today. Chipeng has spoken about a lot of things, but I'd like to come to what Satyam said a few minutes ago about emerging technologies not being really the main point of focus, but rather the emergence of all technologies. This is something important. Mauritius is very well advanced as far as infrastructure is concerned. Wonderful internet, mobile devices everywhere. But we are still a country where, for instance, we don't know at what time the bus will come, which is an indication that even though we have the infrastructure, we are not thinking about real solutions for real problems that real people are having in the country. And this is happening because of a combination of factors that, once again, Satyam mentioned. Starting with a lack of clear vision on what we want to achieve. And the fact that, and this is something that I saw in the morning when I was in the audience for the financial innovation panel, there are so many entities doing more or less the same things. The other reason, obviously, is a lack of resources, human capital. And on this, I have a very, I guess, or I hope, interesting point of view. You know, when I started teaching 20 years ago, I worked at the Mauritius Chamber of Commerce and Industry, where I was teaching BTS students, Brevet de Technicien Supérieur. So 2 years, very, very technical, very hands-on, lots of internships, and the consequence was that when those people with 2 years of university studies were out of school, they were ready for work. As compared to what we have today, a lot of university graduates, sometimes with master's degree, but who do not have an understanding of what the real world looks like, how real businesses operate. A strong indication, by the way, is the kind of salaries that they are asking. Because they don't understand that, for example, if you want to earn 20,000 rupees, you need to bring in 25,000 rupees to the company, whilst the company is operating at a loss. So something as simple as that is not understood by a large part of the population, including parents. And this is, for me, a very, very, very big elephant in the room. At the end of the day, we live in a capitalistic system, and we need to understand those things. Now, this being said, I do represent the United Nations Development Programme today, UNDP. And UNDP, as you know, works with a lot of stakeholders. The most important one being the government, in order to implement decisions which are made by world leaders. So the UNDP has a contract with the government of Mauritius, and the contract is going to be revisited this year. It should have been revisited 2 years ago because of COVID. It was lengthened a little bit. So this new contract is going to be based on what is being shown here, which is the strategic plan and offer from UNDP for governments for the years to come, 2022, 2025. And arguably, the most important part there is the various things which are green on the right. COVID has shown that a country needs to build resilience. And when we are talking of resilience, we are talking of food security. We are talking of the fact that in case, for instance, our fiber optics connection stops working, we need to be able to continue to do business and live. There are so many aspects of resilience that we need to think about in the context that where we're living right now. And obviously, one extremely important element is climate change, which is impacting a lot of our lives. And so building resilience is very much in resonance with this aspect. The second thing is structural transformation. A definition of madness is repeating over and over again the same thing and expecting different outcome. We need to transform our structures. As I alluded at the beginning, there are so many different organizations doing more or less the same things. No clear vision. We need to be able to align on something which is conducive to making things happen. And the last thing in green is very important. It is about leaving no one behind. This is where it is extremely important to understand that one of the motto or the vision of government is for Mauritius to be an inclusive country. Now, inclusive is easy to say, but in practice, it is related to education. It is related to access to, all the basic needs and also the advanced needs. Because those kids, who knows, they might be the next Nobel Prize winners. And the way UNDP is going to do that is to concentrate on 3 enablers. One of them is obviously digitalization. And digitalization is just a means. It's not an end in itself. Technology is commoditized today. We don't have to invent technology. We just have to know how to use technology properly. The second one is strategic innovation. And this is also something that Satyam alluded to. We need to have strategies, yes, but we need to, do or execute the various actions. So it's not about writing reports just for the sake of writing reports. And most importantly, and this is something I mentioned, and I'm going to finish with this, Mauritius is considered by the international organizations, including UN, as a rich country. We oscillate between rich and medium, high medium income, which means that in the following years, in 5 years, 6 years, we will stop getting a lot of money from UN or from the EU, because that's the way rich countries operate. They need to be able to generate their incomes by themselves. So it is in this context that the UN is going to negotiate with the state of Mauritius, the Republic of Mauritius, a new contract. And this is based on this contract that we are going to work. And as you can see, it requires a change in mindset and the collaboration of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next panelist, your thoughts, please.
Thank you, Japan. So I'm going to address about the cybersecurity, which is one of the pillar addressed by Japan in Industry 4.0, and also Industry 5.0, which is people-centric, right? So as we all know that there are 2 types of companies, like by the FBI former director said, either one company is being the one which is hacked and the other which is going to be hacked. Right, so cyber attacks, we know that it's happening every day, daily basis, like you have mentioned about ransomware is happening in small industry or large scale, it is happening. So we need to find a resilient solution that can help the organization to proceed further without any problem in continuity of the business. So One option is to focus on the security of the organization by moving just preventing the threat to cyber resilience. So there are ways you can protect the organization. Like one solution which we can give is cyber solution is there are several ways to do it. One is data isolation. We talk about data. Yesterday, speakers, they mentioned about data in different sectors, healthcare or agriculture. So these data which you talk about innovation, the vital data, the value is it's maintained if those data are reliable or I can say if it's secure, right? So if these data has to be secured and if it has to be reliable, we need some kind of confidence from the security of the data in organization. So there are methods. One of the methods is by the method of, this is not for organizations, this is for researchers who are in the field of cybersecurity, to emphasis on data isolation. That is, you isolate the data and the work is done in the restricted area. And when it is allowed to synchronize, then we can have the encryption method, a highly encrypted method to work on that. Then another component in cyber resilience is to data immutability. We don't let the data to be mutable, like, to change. We don't let the data to be deleted or do any changes to the data. So these are solutions that can be provided to the researchers in the field of cybersecurity when instead of focusing on everyday threat, that is, we have threat coming every day. So we cannot predict what threat can come tomorrow for the organization. And I'm sure many organization management, they have the worries, what threat is going to come in the future. So it's quite difficult to predict for the solution what we have today could solve your problem tomorrow. So that's not possible because we cannot predict the threat for tomorrow. So just not to just go on with threats and solutions. One recommendation is to go into the DNA of the cyber attacks. So we don't just go for patchworks, we go for the DNA, the root cause. What is the root cause of the cyber attacks in many organizations? So one of the factor that is the root cause, I'm sure many of you agree, is employees. Though employees are our assets and they can be one of the factors to be the threat where data can be compromised through the employees. So we have seen during pandemic time that we have carried our work to the home network. Of course, many organizations, they say that they have well-secured network in their organization. That's quite nice. So when you bring your network to the home network, during that time, during the pandemic time, when it was in the peak time, when we were worried, so we had that transition immediately to just to have the business to continue. We make sure that the business is continuing by just moving to the home network. So this is where the data could have been compromised because not all the home network are well secured. So for this reason, there is one term we use in cybersecurity is cyber hygiene. So it is high time we emphasize on cyber hygiene protocols to everyone. We don't say cybersecurity is only for industry. Cybersecurity is for everyone. Like I mentioned, we want to make it become cyber threat-free island. So no threat. Of course, it's not 100% no threat. So the way during pandemic time, we have abided to the protocols emphasized on hygiene. Why don't we have these protocols of cyber hygiene emphasized on everyone? So we teach at the lower level for kids, school level, college, university, to emphasize on protocols to maintain. These are simple protocols to be maintained. Like, you have regular backups, protect your password. There are a few protocols even provided by Interpol.
Right.
Now, when you have cyber hygiene, which is for industry, that is employee-based, you can have more inputs for the protocols to be maintained. Another factor Chipeng has said is Industry 5.0, people-centric. This is where cyber psychology comes in the picture. Cyber psychology, the psychology of the human when they are interacting with the cyberspace. That is when they are online, the behavior, it has an impact on the offline life. And this impact, of course, we are not talking about just social media. We cannot deny the fact that employees, they do visit social media, and we are affected by social media images or posts or anything. So we go through many situations where criticism or bullying or body shaming, there are so many things going through by the employees. So psychology related to the use of technology has a bigger impact. So we need to educate cyber psychology and e-mental health, the depressions, anxiety produced in the users, cyberspace users, how to tackle them. And we can educate the kids, the school, universities, and bring these kind of education to show them how to come out of the psychological issues when they are online.
Okay, let's hold the thought. We go to the Q&A soon.
Yeah.
Let me now bring Jenny to the fore.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chipeng. And thank you for organizing, MRIC for organizing les Assises de l'innovation et la recherche. So what we're hoping, what certainly I'm hoping, is that out of this these very interesting sessions, I believe these 3 days, out of this would come really a clear, actionable plan. Because there's been a lot of talk over the past of years, talking a lot about strategies, there's been different councils, etc. But I think now is high time, it's past high time for actions. And what I mean by actionable items is really to, out of this Assise, what I hope is that we have clear actions which are being driven by a project management methodology with some clear deadlines, timelines, and with some measurable KPIs. And the KPIs, they could be various, right? Number of products introduced over the scope of time, etc. So having said that, I think, it's why it's high time, because there's so many problems that need to be addressed. Avinash mentioned, we've been talking about several times why with all this infrastructure that we have, we still do not know, how to make our transport efficient. We still don't know what time the bus is passing to make, to enhance productivity and efficiency. Why don't we still have, for example, smart parking, which we've been talking several times? So these are the things that I think, would need to be addressed. We've been talking, and the problems are numerous. I won't be counting. I think every one of you in the room would have at least, a full handset of problems to be addressed in the country. But I want to talk about a few enablers, and some of them have been mentioned by earlier on by the various speakers. First of all is a lack of digital skills. Not only qualitatively, Rajneesh mentioned that we have got a shortage of labor, and this is getting worse and worse with the brain drain, with an aging population. This is really those, in the IC working in the ICT sector would know that we're struggling more and more to get IT skills. Now, when you mention digital skills, now even for innovation, we're talking about the high-end skills, that's even worse, right? So we've got, as a nation, if we don't do anything now, 10 years down the line, we'll be in even more worse situation. So we need to, policymakers need to sit down, we've said it again, and look at education right from the start. Primary, what are we doing at primary, secondary level, university level? People are coming out of universities, there are not enough numbers. The skills, very often they are mismatched. Why? Because the technology is advancing very quickly, and the programs are sometimes too long, and are not adapted to the industry needs. So again, we need to revisit that. So we don't have enough people coming into onto the market with IT skills, with digital skills. So again, we need to look back at the primary and secondary education. What are we doing? And don't forget that digital skills science is all practical. So we need to review this. Enough of theory, we need practice, we need actions. And the mindsets. mindsets is talking about, generally. Satya mentioned, is the market ready? Are people ready? What I've said is that what I've seen is that COVID has been a blessing in disguise. That's accelerated. It's broken down a few barriers, for example, for e-commerce, for mobile banking. But again, we need to see how to address that proactively, not wait for things to happen, not wait for another pandemic to come our way before we change, we try to influence that mindset. Also, I think Avinash mentioned it, there are many, and Satya mentioned it, there are many things being done, be it by enterprises, be it by the public sector as well. There are many people many enterprises doing the same things, or doing disparate things when they could be, together, work together into synergy and build something bigger. There's no clear-cut strategic vision. There's no platform to reunite them. There's not an audit of what do we have existing and consolidation and regroup these. So I think that's, again, it would be worthwhile to do this audit, see what we have already, and then build on that, gear that, and towards really a proper vision. Mindsets, when we talk about mindsets as well, it's also, we have got experts as well here in Mauritius. If we do the audit of what exists, we would see that there are beautiful things that are being done in Mauritius. If you walked down the aisle here, you would see that there are things being done, but how do we know about it? There's not a platform today. It's very difficult. Talking about recycling, it's very difficult to go as a user, the Lambda user, the general public, to know how can I recycle my waste? How can I recycle my fridge or whatever? What is available to me? So small things that can quickly, quick actions that can be done without much resource to enable, the public at large as well to participate in the innovation, in fostering innovation. And also, what we are doing is quite good. So we need to favor that kind of mindset. We need to celebrate, I think, success when people innovate. When Mauritians, we've got brilliant people, we've got brilliant minds. They don't need to go out overseas to succeed, to showcase their ideas. They need to be able to showcase their ideas and get applauded in our country. So I think that's a very, success, by celebrating success of our startups, our entrepreneur, our innovators, this will draw further success.
Okay, with the inspiring thought, let's hold the thought, Jenny. Let's move on to Ilham.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm specifically wanted to discuss about the pain that SME is having today. We have, as at 2020, we have registered like 116,000 SMEs, which is contributing around 43% of the GDP, and also 55% of the employment, which is like a big sector. And recently with the COVID pandemic, we have seen like people lost jobs, lost salaries, price increased, and also that has impacted a lot on the economic sector, especially the SME sector. Innovation and emerging technology is quite important for, I would say, any nation island, because this help to reduce, to optimize efficiency in businesses. I have a few reports that I read, just trying to write what I wanted to say today. There's a McKinsey report that says SMEs only focus 26% of their core business. And the rest are operational issues, operations, that the time goes into that, where they could have done better to improve their businesses. Also, same McKinsey report was said that whether are we focusing on the real pain or that an SME is having. It's like this report said, we have 4 phases of an SME. We have the launch phase, where SME seeks cash, loans, and whether banks are prepared to give loans to a new setup. The next phase is like the business as usual, where SMEs seek talents from the market, and also seek how to have the right talent doing their accounting, their HR, all the internal processes. The next phase that it mentioned was the growth phase. The growth phase, which includes like, how can I get more loan? How can I invest more? And the last phase, which was mentioned, it's more how the SME can get international. So today I am from SME sector. I've been running my business for the last 7 years, and I've been really going through these stages. And today I do feel we have SME Mauritius who is contributing, who is helping SMEs, but everything is on a verbal, on a meeting, on a forum. But there's no way of doing it from an automatic, like the time I need this guide, I have it. Also, I've seen SME suffering because I've been working on this sector. I've been seeing SMEs suffering from work from home. Today, it's a norm. Everyone is working from home. But how are we able to monitor our progress, our works? And these are the new challenges. And I see needs and pain create innovation and create emerging technologies. So from my definition, the emerging technology is a technology that is solving a need using technology. And today we don't see that much happening in the island, which means it's delaying to prepare for our next pandemic. There are examples from other countries like Stripe in US. They are creating a company in a box environment to help the SME to create a company, to manage the accounting, to manage the HR. There's Xerox from New Zealand also who is bringing API layer for SMEs so that they can consume AI. They can have forecasts for their businesses. And also, I think Alipay, that's the world's biggest payment, which is providing cheap payment solutions to SMEs. I think the whole idea of an SME is to see it from a 2-generation technology. The current generation and the new generation, which we keep hearing about AI, about robotics, about fintechs. This is the next generation.
Okay, Dilam, let's hold the thought on next generation. We'll come back to you during the Q&A. Without further ado, let's move on to Nishti.
Thank you, Chipeng. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be talking about education as an enabler of digital transformation. So today we are talking about a sector which is the 3rd pillar of the economy, a sector that has seen growth during even pandemic, a sector that is constantly evolving, a sector that is dynamic, a sector that have a lot of opportunities. But the pace at which this sector is moving, the rise in technological application, technological tools, and the pace at which we are able to sensitize the population, we are able to train the population, educate the population, I do feel that there is a gap somewhere here itself. I think if we want to move across, really moving towards digital innovation, If we talk about, we all want to be smart. We all want to use smart technologies. We all want to have smart cars, smart houses, smart buildings, smart cities. We all want to move towards smartness. But what about building a smart nation? Have we thought about it? We used to have digital initiative before. We used to talk about IC3. But it's high time that we need to revamp this. We need to build an information initiative, digital society. We have it in Finland. We've seen in many countries, they have already done it. They're doing it, in fact. In Finland, in Ireland, in Singapore, they call it as an information society initiative. We don't need to go across the same line. We need to move across what we have in the Mauritian context. It's high time that we think about it. It's high time that we need to educate the population in general. Whichever sector it is, from basic to high level, we really need to educate the population. Another point that I will discuss also, I think Avinash mentioned it, Jenny also mentioned it, is about capacity building. Today we've seen that if we look at the millennials today, they are really into technology. They use app, they use the laptop, tablet, they use all technological app that we have, but still they don't want to adopt this field, this sector as a career. There is a gap here itself, even at the secondary level, even at the tertiary level, there is something that we need to do. Or else there will be completely skill mismatch. We will not be able to supply the demand that is required by industry. And I think we need to move together, as here all panels, together with industry partners, together with policymakers. We need to join hands together to look into how we can resolve this issue. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Next, let's hear from Vikas.
Sorry for not making a bit complicated slides. It's very simple. If you know someone who is not happy with whatever he's earning, if you have a nephew, niece who wants to earn more and not educated well, let me tell you next 120 seconds, just listen to me very carefully. It's all about you, and all the emerging technologies will come. They're already there. You want to buy a AI-enabled carpet cleaner, it's lying in Bagatelle for less than $200. So it's already there. Don't worry about that. It's about you. Now, all the technologies that are now developed or have been developed or will be developed, we are in a best phase to learn them. If you have not studied, if you have studied till secondary, if you have not done anything in your life for IT, this is the time when you can learn it actually at a click of a button. So the point I'm making is, it's about you. It's about how you want to disrupt this entire feeling of that haves and have-nots. And this is what my whole discussion all about, that there is no need for anyone to feel delinked with the emerging technologies. All you need is a dedication, a laptop, and an internet connection. Just to give you a statistics, Mr. Rajneesh already told, we are super duper penetrated market of data, mobile, everything. You know, 78% of the data which is flowing in this country comes from 5 destinations: Netflix, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and one more, Instagram. 78%. This is what we are doing with this entire huge. Imagine what we can do when we start creating anything on top of that. This will be talked later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, Roshan.
Thank you. The problem of talking last is there's little to say because everything is said before. But I'll take the advantage of what's been said before, and starting with I think Satyam said that, and many before. It's about first of all the inclusivity, and if we want to go to Industry 5.0, as you said it is about the population. The people have to come first. And even when we're talking about innovation, it's about the people centricity. It's about the possibility of getting things done for the people. The problem about digitalization up to now we have seen is automation. So what we try to do is keep the same processes, and we just want to get it done in a digital manner. We need to rethink everything from a person, and as I think it was Jenny who mentioned that we need to be getting everything together. So it is not just one person like a bank going on a digital journey. It is the whole system has to go on that same digital journey in there. Avinash said something very interesting, and I remember quoting that in an article sometime, that everyone seems to have the same idea at the same time in this country. And we wonder where's innovation, you know, and the culture seems to be killing innovation. We are, I think Satyam said that, we have got, it's cultural. We are scared of taking new steps. We are scared of doing things. And unless we don't celebrate, yes, we need to celebrate success, but we need to also celebrate failure. We need to celebrate the ability to do things. You know, I always feel very amused when you get into organizations and they say, you know what, these are the rules of the book. You need to do this. Do not get out of what has been said according to the rules, but please think outside the box. So, I mean, you need to be able to say, like, if we want to innovate, we need to allow people to fail. We need to celebrate failure. But there is also the point of celebrating success, as Jenny rightly pointed out. And if you want to celebrate success, we need to give these people opportunities. Unfortunately, private sector for way too long has lived on, I mean, more than 90% of the companies in Mauritius are owner-managed, owner-led, nepotism, and we do not give opportunity to talent to really go up. And this is where we have the brain drain. It is nothing to do with anything else other than they don't see the right opportunities to be able to express themselves. So if we want to do that, if we want to be able to get the digital transformation into Industry 5.0, yes, we need to go through customer centricity. We need to have customer journeys across the board. Connectivity between public sector, private sector, civil society, sit down around a table, as you rightly said, and see what needs to be done. Okay, 27 years ago, there was Vision 2020 that was built, the National Long-Term Perspective Study. And for whatever be it, it gave us an opportunity to sit down. It's high time we sit together and think about Vision 2050 or 2030 or whatever. But we need to do it together, come up with a roadmap, and way too long, we say that is a government's role. I mean, it needs to be private sector led. It needs to be us who are able to say what has to be done and make it happen. And the last one that I wanted to say is that unless we have data analytics, unless we spend a lot of time knowing what is going on wrong, what are the gaps missing in the industry, where do we get things done, we will not be able to do that. And I think there's a lot of data out there. You mentioned there's a lot of data on the government that is being done, but we need to be able to access the data, obviously with all the protection required, and see what are the gaps, get the new startups, because we run an incubator, so it's a lot to do with see the startups struggling to know where are the gaps. Even the interesting project of Dr. Biswanath, which is the national, the scheme for innovation and for startups and SMEs, we say that it has to work for industry, and we need to know what's missing so we can help them. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Roshan. Now I understand. We will start with Avinash first. I understand you have been asking a lot of questions. So therefore, we cast is wrong. It's not 78% that is social media. You have changed it, right? 50% are all your questions that you pump through all the mobile apps, right? So we will come to your question after coffee break. But to set the tone, what it will be like in the second half, so that you come back and you don't go home. Just hear the advertisement bit, right? 30-second challenge. Avinash, all yours.
So if we want to accelerate the adoption of digital transformation, we need to understand that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So many things are happening all over the world, Singapore, Dubai, I mean, Estonia, we have an MOU with Estonia, and we can leverage on that, provided we have a clear vision of what we want to achieve. And once again, the clear vision needs to be geared towards making the lives of citizens better, because at the end of the day, this is what is important for the country. Excellent. Next, same question.
Okay, for accelerating the adoption of digital transformation can you hear me? Yes. For accelerating the adoption of digital transformation, I would go for security again. If you system in your organization, then digital transformation can be much faster.
Okay, excellent. Next, Jenny.
Okay. So for me, it would be look at what we have already, build on what we have, and then showcase how innovation, how digital transformation is helping everyone's lives.
Excellent. Diram?
For me to accelerate innovation and emerging technologies to help the SMEs, how we can accompany them and solve their pain point one by one. Also, as Jenny said, let's think inside the box. What we have, we make it happen. Thank you.
Very good. Next, yes, Nishti.
For me, to accelerate digital transformation, it is about having clear objectives in mind about what we want to go, what we want to do, and also put people first, put people at the heart of digital transformation.
Excellent. Yes.
For me, uninstall TikTok, Netflix from your mobile and your smart TVs, whatever. And change the subscription of YouTube to some educational channel where you learn the skills. That's the first point, and install Udemy on your phone. That's it.
Excellent. Last but not least.
Yeah, so for me, if we want to accelerate digitalization, I come back to this private sector thing. And we, as the private sector, we need to know what we want, the shift away from just making money in the short term and thinking long term. And if you want to do that, I say it again, it's about meritocracy and getting people to come up, those who have got talent, not killing talent and killing innovation.
Excellent, well said. With this, we'll go for coffee break. I'm sorry about the timing. Can we have 10 minutes back by 3:30, please? Bon appetit. Or you don't want to go for coffee break, we can continue. So, go network with all the panelists here. Be seated by 3:30. I hope everything is well. You also.
Essai 1, 2, 3, essai. 1, 2, 3, essai. Testing 1, 2, 3. Essai 1.
Guys, let's come in. Bring your coffee, bring your cake. The most interesting session is awaiting you. Ali. Hi, how are you? Thank you for coming and support. And ask them many tough questions, okay, afterward. Shoot. This is the opportunity, all right? Thank you. Now, I'm going to make sure you are in the next one. Can you give you a card? You send me an SMS. No, WhatsApp. This is my Singapore. You got a friend in Singapore. Send me an email. Give me your full details. We will make sure you are in the panel next time. Are you prepared to answer some questions now? Serious. Under my invite. Golden opportunity. I ask you a very simple question. How you feel IT can help NGO? Okay, come. Serious? We think straight, talk straight. Come. What's your name? What's your name? He's the one that said stop. Sure. Guys, can I have all of you back onto the stage and everybody seated? Please bring in coffee and the cakes. Don't waste.
All the panelists, please come back on stage. At least those who...
Okay, we got 2 only. We got 3. Okay, I think all the panelists are back. Okay. Can somebody help me to close the door because the glare is terrible? Thank you, madam. You are very kind. God bless you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are now into the finale. What did they say? We keep the best for last, right? And I'm very happy to see the privileged people in the room to hear the real debate. The real debate not start now. It will be conducted like hard talk, no finishing. We will shoot question in between. And please, if you got any question, it will be displayed there. So keep it coming, right? Now, to start the ball rolling, Avinash. Avinash mentioned that the key to human centricity is back to basic. That's why we start talking about humanity 0.0. Now, in order to go back to basic and have resilience, one of the biggest issues facing us today, money talks, bullshit walks. So therefore, being a very supportive and loyal Mauritian, he's now working with UN and UNDP to come up with some funding mechanism. So therefore, the first question from the audience is, how does this, Avinash, this funding works in terms of upskilling knowledge? Because you are the one who said knowledge transfer is very important, but how does the funding support the upskilling? And also, if we go down the path, how does this then support bringing in the best practices technology into Mauritius? The floor is yours.
Obviously, we can have various kinds of strategies, but you see, at the level of the UNDP, 2 years ago, there was this realization that in any country, a lot of things are already happening at the grassroots level, in small villages, in the towns, at school. Many things are happening, and unfortunately, most people doing interesting things in a country are not known to others. So one thing which might be extremely interesting is to find a way to promote doers. And this can then, inspire other people to do exactly the same as them, or to join hands with them.
Very good.
To do more.
Can we pass the mic? Because you're the one who say we must learn how to do instead of talking. Let's make things happen. So in response to UNDP funding, which we will grab all the money into our Mauritian pocket, how do you now advise Mauritian who is going to apply funding from UNDP to put up a business plan that show we make things happen, we don't talk?
Yes, they said the important question is how and not what. Okay.
Well, can you look at Avinash when you answer, so you can convince him to release the money? How do we make things happen? Yeah.
Yeah. So once assuming
water, I'm burning the stick.
So let's put it very simply. I mean, there is a governance of getting the fund. There is a governance of allocating the fund, but it all boils down to the individual intent. Let me give you an example. What you do 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. every day of your life defines your future. Trust me on this one. Whatever you do between 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. of your day defines what is your destiny. If you collate everybody's destiny in the country, that's the destiny of the country that is being defined in these 3 hours. I'll tell you why I chose these 3 hours. There's a technical reason for that. Between these 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., the internet traffic is at the peak. The Netflix usage is at the peak, TikTok is at the peak, and Facebook is at the peak. This is where we define where we will be.
Okay. So in order for Avinash to approve our business plan, we got to show him that our company is working up to 10 p.m., right? So if you can pass the mic to Roshan. Roshan, data-driven. The gentleman has spoken with privileged knowledge. So you are the one who said digital native. You are the one who said, hey, private sector, please drive. And how do we put people first in this context?
How do we?
How do we put people first in this context of what the two gentlemen have said?
I mean, it's extremely important that people are put first, because organizations obviously cannot work without people. And up to now, what is going on is that it is the bottom line that is being put first, not people. And if you go back to the UN and their objectives, if they'll only give money, is that the end user should be put first, not the shareholder.
Okay.
So unless we see what everything we're doing and how it connects for the end user, well, nothing will work. And so we don't have a choice there. It's not like how do you put people first? If we want to put people first, the only way that we have to do is to listen to them.
Okay.
And ask them what do they want and how do we do it.
Okay, listen to your stakeholders, basically. Okay, Nishti, you spoke about smart nation. Our nation is so smart. We are totally polarized by social media between 7 to 10 p.m. So how do we now transform this nation to be a smart one so that we can get money from Avinash?
I think we can take the money from Avinash to...
You by smiling at him?
Yes.
Okay.
We take the money from Avinash to train the population and build up on digital transformation.
Okay, all right. Let's hear from Dilam. Dilam, your focus is SME, right? So with the funding available, how do we now really put money where our mouth is and help this MSME succeed? What strategy is involved?
I think first is we have to answer how we can get this money. Is it a fund? Is it a bank account access? But there are a couple of examples that I can mention here, like Singapore, Malaysia, France, where they are using Siri as a fund mechanism. And Siri is not the mobile phone Siri, but it's a Smart Industry Readiness Index. Right, I spell it right. So how they are using these funds is through in providing these funds to new startups, instead of large or medium companies who can easily access these funds. So how innovative idea we can push using this fund would be my strategy for SMEs.
Okay, very good. If we pass the mic to Avinash. Avinash, will you fund a very good plan from SME?
It's not a question of him being a very good friend.
Oh, no.
And he's actually a good friend of mine. For instance, I would fund him if it actually comes with, obviously when I'm saying it's UNDP, would consider funding his company if he has actual solutions which are adapted to the local context.
Okay.
One thing which is important when I mentioned that we should not reinvent the wheel, but sometimes we do have to customize solutions. For instance, you are doing, let's say for the sake of argument, an accounting system. The accounting system, you will have to produce documents to be remitted to MRA or company's division. It would be interesting for the system to readily do those things. And if I'm not mistaken, your system already does something like that. So this is the kind of project which would be funded by the UN because they are actually working and solving real problems on the ground.
It sounds like you're really funding him, or you're hinting
Not
to
yet.
him.
Not yet.
You're hinting to him to apply. So, Dr. Vikram, you heard this 2% is having side business here, but we heard just now we need to go to a high-end scale from Jenny. Okay, in order to go to a high-end scale, a lot of speakers spoke about the ecosystem and talk about being in a cluster. In our masterclass for the last 6 years, we said Mauritian got to learn how to collaborate, how to hunt impact, right? Don't try to go to Africa and kill each other to win a contract, because Mauritian company, in the very little I know when I run the essential practice, we tend to win because we tend to stand out, because we are that good. We are respectful, we are humble, and we are good. So my question to you now is, how can, I know you also run a innovation hub, incubator. How does all this relate? How do we go and seek funding? First from you, and then from Avinash, and from the general public to ideas and all that.
I think I have well, sort of a diverse mindset. I am for the idea that if the project is good, then funding will automatically come. So what we do at the MRIC is we try to create a collaborative platform. We encourage, we envision what we call collaborative innovation, where there will be win-win. Sometimes when people see this win-win, they sort of tilt a bit because, well, it is in our culture, it is in our Mauritian culture, is that when we are faced with a problem, automatically people tend to come together, look like here. Nobody has a sort of a personal agenda. We are talking, we are collaborating together for this country. So I would imagine that first, let's try to see whatever company or startup we are creating, we aim that it will be able to bring something new, which is being used by the population. And then the funding will come.
Okay, just out of curiosity, how much project have you funded through the incubator in terms of millions of rupees?
So we've started in 2017, and the MRIC has put till now some 28 million rupees worth funding, so and in collaboration with 7 private sector incubators. We have trained some 260 projects, and out of this, since we've started in 5 years, we have created 22 startups. And among these 22 startups, some, let's say, some 10 are trying to get their head out of the water.
So
now.
They will be, how many will be unicorn in the process?
2 or 3 main.
Okay. All right, you will whisper to our ears so that we can start investing in this company. Okay, very good. Now, if I ask Nishti to come in, the second most popular question from the audience, right, is people. No doubt about that, right? And you spoke about the need to be a smart nation, a need to develop people to have the digital native mindset. You also very passionate to say, Chipeng, the people that go into IT stream, be in secondary school or tertiary, it's not there, right? And there are many speakers that came before you that spoke on that as well. And I have on a very unauthorized source said, almost 70% of our university going students do art stream instead of science stream. So I'm asking for two things. IT is just one of the technology stream, but there are other that is in the technology non-art stream, right? So with this, how do we transform Mauritius to be a smart nation? There are many ways to do it, but we'd like to hear from you.
Yeah. So if we look at the young mind today, yes, we do have a lack of enrollment in the IT sector.
Lack of employment.
Enrollment.
Enrollment. Okay.
Yes, enrollment of students really focusing on this field of study. So what can be done is that even at primary level, we took it at the grassroots, at primary level, we need to start having some boot camps. We need to even primary and I would say lower secondary level boot camps have to be there. We need to start preparing our students. We need to sensitize them about the opportunities that this sector have, because many of them, they don't know. They just look at it like, yes, like Vikas was mentioning about Facebook, Netflix, and all these. So they look at it in that particular way. They don't look at it at what can we achieve, what are the opportunities of this sector. And I think like if we start creating awareness, it has to be there from primary, lower secondary, so that because above lower secondary, they will start adopting a field, they start choosing the career. So it is here that we need to start making students aware. We need to have career counseling session, and then so that they can embark in this field.
Build the building block, create the building block, build and they shall come. That is a belief system. What about you, Vikas?
Well, I think the first awareness should be done with the parents before we go to the children.
So watching Netflix is not part of the.
I mean, no, that's it. See parents watching Netflix, they think this is a good thing to do and this is how you grow in life. Okay. No, I'm not coming to that. My point is, see, what does the young generation needs today is very simple. With the minimum efforts, they need maximum results.
Right.
This is the requirement. This is perfectly fine. I'm not saying something is wrong with this approach. It's absolutely fine. Which industry can help them in this? It's this IT industry. It's an instant gratification industry. It's just near close to McDonald's. You study, you get the skill, you get the job, you make money, you get big car. I mean, it's that simple. You don't need much resources. And just to demystify this, I'm a big fan of formal education, but formal education has a capacity or a limit to it. The only thing that if I can make everyone take away today is that to learn IT skill, you don't need to be a formally, tertiary education or a college graduate. No, if you are 60, 70 years old man, never done coding, trust me, you can do coding, right? So this whole, this is what I call disruption. And this is where you get more and more people. We have 1.3 million people, that's it. How do we make use of them? So that's where this formal sector is good. But if you really want the needs of the skills, no, the problem is we confuse skill with knowledge. Knowledge is important, but thank you, Google, knowledge is easily available. What is not easily available is skill. So focus on the skill part. Knowledge is definitely important.
Okay, the 2 points. I want to ask Roshan. You very cleverly inserted 2 things. One, lifelong knowledge. Chipping, you cannot retire in Industry 5.0. Keep working, so acquire more knowledge. Don't retire, right? So Roshan, you convince us on your enthusiasm, right? That the private sector should drive this. So how do we help Nishti, who is very stressed, looking at the dropping numbers of IT wannabes in this respect? What can the private sector do apart from obviously setting up private university?
And I just want to take a bit of a step back on that one, because you see, there's a bit of a word of caution. Right now, we have got a huge demand for software developers.
Yes.
Okay. Salaries are doubling overnight because salaries are aspiring up. Last time we saw such an issue was in the offshore sector, where people leaving the university with an accounting background quickly got a job and went in there. 20 years down the line, what we have seen right now is that because it was simple money, we were living off a DTA, and we were not building value. And a business, an industry that started with a value-based industry has now become a cost-plus industry. And if we are not careful, we're going to do the exact same thing with the software development industry. And we are going towards that.
Yes.
Because we are very focused, we're very quickly, we're getting good business. And the private sector, the employers who are employing people, they are focusing on the short term.
Right.
The entrepreneurs are focusing on the short term. And so if the private sector has to get involved here, is to also see how do we increase that? Vikas said something just now that we have got just 1.3 million people. If the 1.3 million people are going to do low-level jobs, we're not going to make a lot of income. We need to right now focus on the value-added work for the software industry.
Excellent. Talking about value add, let's go to Dilam. Dilam, how do we upscale the management, because most SME is single one person, the boss is the one that do everything. How do we upscale the knowledge, upscale the skill of SME so that they can then slowly transform, hopefully with Dr. Vikram's help, from like this to a mid-size player before become the unicorn that will do us proud?
Actually, we are talking different type of knowledge. Definitely knowledge, it's a willingness to have. And let me just give one example. My friend Anav here, who is 13 years old, he took the challenge to solve a problem using AI he coded at the age of 13 years old. So what this means, it's our new generation is hungry to solve a specific problem. The second thing you mentioned about how we teach SME, I think as Vikas said, YouTube, Facebook is at the peak during a certain hour. So how we can use these tools to educate our SMEs on their day-to-day problem, using videos, using samples, which are available at any time, anywhere, and especially when you are having to deal the problem. Okay. So education.
Make it easy to use, seamless, get them attracted from a very low requirement start point. Is that what you're trying to say? Let's go to Avinash. Avinash, UNDP is an NGO. How about helping other NGOs in Mauritius to survive? How can NGO apply for your fund?
Yeah, but before answering your question, just replying or building upon what a few of us have said, in this era of massive, inflation, the best investment is investing on yourself. Learning is absolutely fundamental. And Arnav, we had a conversation 2 days ago. He is 13, Form 2 at Saint-Esprit, and has learned computer programming, including machine learning, by himself, by watching videos on YouTube. So this can actually work. The second thing, Mauritius is a touristic destination. All the tourists who come here love Mauritian music, for instance. Why not leveraging on that to create content on platforms such as Netflix to bring in additional revenue? Or build our own,
short documentary.
Where we can get access to Mauritian content. Right. The third thing, jobs in technology are so varied. When you watch a movie today, the end credits is hours long with thousands of new jobs. No one here has a strategy, was thought about leveraging on that. And this is combining what I was mentioning yesterday, STEM with arts. And this is the way forward, STEMA. And it corresponds to the kind of people we have here. We are artistic and scientific at the same time. So you see, and coming to your question, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, are pretty much the main kind of organizations who get money from the UN, because obviously they have a very transparent way of dealing with that money, and we can actually at the level of UN go and ask them exactly what they are doing with every cent, because at the end of the day it's about taxpayers' money, obviously.
Okay, good. Thank you. Dr. Vikram, What's your friend name? The 13-year-old boy? What's his name? Anuf. Okay. Would MRIC accept a proposal from the likes of 13 years old and fund them?
Oh, yes. He already, well, to my understanding, in 2017, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, the MRIC introduced him to robotics and we had a course. So for us, we are really proud that with a course that we did hands-on training, we inspired one among many others to go where he is now. And I have told, and this is one. Secondly, using whatever equipment we provided, we gifted to them, he participated in the National Innovation Challenge. And we are proud to say that he is one of our winners. And third, I've asked my colleague Kushal, who leads the NIC, if Arnav would like to spend a few days to come to see us at the MRIC. We are looking into, as you are aware, the satellite technology. So we would like to inspire him more.
You will send him?
No, not him, but I mean, we will send in his mind to space.
Okay, all right. Let me stop you there. How do we create more enough? You take him, you distill, take out the DNA. What is it?
No, the DNA is out there, Chipeng. It's just inspiring more of these to come up. How do we do that? Well, as he participated in the NIC, we gave him limelight. Others will see, if he can, we also can. This is what we want to do.
You say you have given him limelight and promoting him, right? So Anaf, can I ask you how many girlfriends, new girlfriends you have since the promotion? Nothing. So you rejected that. Very good. Just a joke, huh? Don't get angry. Okay, we are into the closing stage because I want to keep the 4 p.m. for these lawyer people. We cannot be extending you. So the final question, before I ask them, is there any burning question you want to ask as a result of this BBC hard talk style of questioning people? Any burning thing? Because I don't want you to go away feeling that your questions are not being answered. No? Okay, the last one. Same question for all of you. It's very clear to us the strategy in order to reach where we want to go by 2025 must address the needs and pain. That is what Dilam said, the needs and pain through a very strategic, innovative approach. That is what Avinash said. Okay? But the question here is always, it takes 3 to clap. People maturity, process intelligence, which is then go to my friend's arena, keeping be data driven. But ultimately, the technology must be something that could enable us to be in Industry 5.0. That has to put human technologies to the front. Otherwise, we are just killing each other. 2060 will happen. Yeah. So my question is, putting people, process, and technology together, and it's up to you to emphasize which point you want, and I'll start with Roshan. How do we onboard this? If I put a big X as a service, because servitization is very important now, how do you see from the people, process, and technology part, depending on what your area of focus is, just choose one only, don't choose 3. How do we achieve this strategic innovation?
For me, it's process, because we need to break down, like you wanted to break down enough, break down the process, understand which part has to be digitalized, which one would make the biggest change onto the end result, and focus on that.
And then set those people on fire. Yes. Very aptly said. How do we make this happen?
2 things: awareness, and secondly, start doing things, stop talking about it.
Okay. Stop being NATO. You are a great teacher. So what is the lessons you want to leave behind?
I think I would talk about skills versus knowledge, just what Vikas mentioned. It's all about skills. It's all about having the right skill. It's all about putting practice into real situation, just like what we do at Polytechnic Mauritius, just to to conclude on a real example, we are very focused, our methodology is very different. We put practice into immersion. We talk about project-based. It's not about just having knowledge, it's about having the right skills.
Okay, I see that you have inserted some marketing. I'm looking at your CEO, 10-month bonus. Okay, Dilam, your take.
Yeah, I see the three elements inside the box because it's not a priority of one to other, but how we can use all of them to create, to generate, use it effectively. Like I've taken an example of SMEs. So how we can create this box for SMEs that can connect creation, payment, banks, people, process automation inside one box.
But we can't say don't talk, do. So when are you going to enable this center of excellence, this SMA box?
So once the funding is available,
Avinash, what are you waiting approve tonight? Okay, pass it to Avinash so they can answer the question. Yes, Avinash, our second last speaker, just in case you are timing when to go home.
So I think Yamal wants to ask one question.
You're dragging him
in. While he's getting the mic, I'll just answer what you have asked.
Yes.
There are wonderful people in Mauritius at various levels, at the level of government, in the private sector, in schools, at the level of grassroots communities. It's a question of, promoting everyone and giving the means to everyone to really contribute to the development of the country.
Right.
This being said, there's this question of the critical mass of people. We need in the short term to attract back some members of the diaspora as well as foreigners by giving them more than just money, because the strategy now is just money or tax rebates. And this is not what attracts people. It's participating in something which is important, which has value. And there's something to be done at this level. But in the long term, obviously, we need to make sure that our schools really produce people who are as productive, yet very, very happy in their life.
Very good. Picking on that, in order to make all this happen, what is your view? Which area you think from a research and innovation angle we should focus on?
I think all three of it are important, but I think we need to put more focus on the people's aspect, because with the last 10, 12 years of experience I have with MRIC, I realized that even though Mauritians are talented, but we do not believe in ourselves. And if we believe in ourselves, then we can make it. So this is, we need to believe in ourselves and we can achieve great things.
That is very good ending from the host. Is there any question from the floor? Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm breaking protocol here. But, when I look at outlining the 2022-2025 master plan, I've heard a lot of individual touch points, touch and go methods that I've heard from different aspects here, from education, from the supranational organization, from research. To have a real master plan and to have real sustainable change, we really need to have this mesh of education, employers, and supranational organizations through sophisticated models that come in, that throughout, a whole of aspect change, throughout the value chain. Yet what I've heard is touch and go at this point. For instance, employers need to engage with children at a very young age. They need to come back and give internships. They need to shadow. They need, at so many different points in time. How do we make this sustainable? How do we ensure that we've got a methodology, a process? Roshan talked about process is important. What is that process? What is that sophisticated model that we show that in and out throughout their lifetime, throughout the lifetime of technologies or students, you're going to have regular touch points so that you can have real impact change, rather than at some point, let's do this, this is brilliant. It's not, it's going to fizzle out. It's going to fizzle out as soon as it came in. So I'm not sure if I'm making sense here.
You are making sense.
I'm not seeing that.
You're making sense. I'm also hearing what you silently is saying, that you're going to host encore, inviting these people to your PML, and we go flash out a plan. Okay. Any other people who want to speak? Otherwise, sir, you want to speak? Do you want to? No. Anybody else? Guys, let me now conclude. We have heard in the last half an hour, 5, 6 people of very different background, but the towers, the best of mine in Mauritius, and I know them personally. I said what I said, and you can verify it. These are really out of the box thinker. I just want to flashback 29 years ago when I first came here to be the managing partner of Accenture. There was a choice between coming here and going to New York to join a top 5, Fortune 5. Why did I choose here? Even my most senior managing partner was surprised with my analysis. And the answer is this. Of all the people we send as scholar to UK, 47% will come back to Singapore with a first-class degree holder. Compare that with Mauritius. 74% of scholars, Mauritian scholar, will come back with a first-class honors. So that's why a lot of people do not understand. They keep asking me, Chipeng, why do you come to this small dot that is 3 times the size of Singapore? Because you require no more motivation how to succeed. You are there. Belief is there. Work ethics is there. But what is not there is to open the third eyes to see what is possible. And I only hire first-class honor from Imperial College during the 5 years I've been running the Anderson practice in Mauritius. Where are they now? C-level. Chairman, CEO of very big companies. 100% Mauritian. Within 2 years, I asked all the foreign partners to go away, and the company has been running on Mauritian powered, and I make 6 of them partners. So do not ask me whether I believe in Mauritian, because I am run by P&L and I make the decision, right? So you always start with this, because what does the EU commissioner say? Hey, don't share burden, huh? Come, share responsibility. So when we start talking about responsibility, we talk about shoulder. Our shoulder must be broad enough to carry all these, one for all and all for one. Industry 5.0 demand each of you to step out to the plate, be counted, carry your fellow Mauritian to the crosser finishing path. With this, what have we discussed so far? You know, all these have been submitted for review before. So all these people do not talk just because they think they can say whatever they want to say. So many things is like the iceberg is below the water. A lot of hard work has happened. Can I ask you now to give them a round of applause? And before passing back to the host, can I now share with you what we've discussed so far, just in case you want to take away. From a strategic standpoint, Siri is most important. Avinash, Roshan, and almost every single panelist say, Chipeng, meritocracy. Chipeng, no colonialism. Chipeng, let's push things. Why Singapore succeeded? Because we do not promote colonialism. Why Malaysia did not succeed? Because we look at the color of the skin. Mauritius, you better learn from the best. Whatever you decide, now will have implication to 2025. 3 years only. Don't think so long, right? The world will not wait for you. So how do we now decide to fund SME X versus SME Y without looking at the color? So the so-called Smart Industry Readiness Index is a proven methodology embraced by France, Malaysia, Singapore, and many other countries. That's how we turn all the potential SME into unicorn. I hope I'm speaking to many people that are very comfortable in life. So you're asking now, what is the reason you exist? I say the reason you exist now is to help Mauritius to survive past 2025. You do your own analysis, which organization you want to invest in, and push it. Together, we shall succeed. On item number 2, people, this is the elephant in the room. You can have the best processes, you can have the best technology, but you don't have the people to manifest it, then forget it. Nothing is going to happen. So we talk about the need to be adversity-centric. The need to build this skill set. Why? Who said COVID-19 is going away? WHO just released an article last night that says, you know what? The drop, almost 70% drop in cases around the world in the last 3 months was not due to because Omicron is less potent. It's because there were 90% drop in testing. So there will be COVID 20, 21, 22, 23. But now we become resilient. We know how to handle this. See, today we wear this and we attend because life cannot stop, right? We cannot succumb to fear. Then we talk about out of the box. One of the biggest role model you want to model against is Avinash, out of the box thinker. So how do we now build this digital economy based on this platform? So that the culture and the mindset of Mauritius, which already very good, based on the research done 29 years ago, Chipeng has gone down the hill since then. I don't think by a lot, right? When you are good, when your seed is good, you throw into the ocean, it becomes an island. We are talking about credential and parentage here, right? Then Industry 5.0. You have heard many speakers speak before me. I urge you not to believe a single thing we say, that the world will not be at a tipping point in 2025, where people will be jobless. I urge you not to believe. But I also urge you to have a plan B. What happens if this prediction is correct? We are working to make sure it doesn't happen the way it's predicted. That's why we share with you what the experts are saying. Discuss no less at World Economic Forum. As you know, WEF is an elitist organization. You do not fill up the application to attend. They invite you, then you come. That is how elitist it is. That's why I brought out the concept of NGO just now in the discussion, right? Because nobody is looking at this powerless, voiceless entity, right? And in terms of process, I'm very happy with the MIC. I have no idea what is the selection criteria, but UNTP defined very well 363. Avinash is one of the foremost technologists in Mauritius. And in terms of technology, we talk about black box, bubble, sandbox, SME box. What did Vika say? No more talking. Do. No more like turn into a center of excellence, open up to MSME and every single organization in Mauritius that want to transform. Singapore become advanced because they jump on the Industry 4.0 bandwagon very fast. Don't you think they have more SME than Mauritius? How can this SME afford? Because they have a center of excellence. What is it that you want to do? Come, use this particular as AAS, as a service, and you pay for that. You do not need to reinvest the whole lot. Why are we duplicating across all SMEs? That is the challenges here that we need to think about, right? And just to give you a view from a different perspective, Chipeng, don't talk, do. In the short term, we hope MIC, I spoke to the Minister of ICT just now. All this will be presented to him. In front of his CTO, I say, I hope this will be prioritized. What can be done short term must be pushed now because mindset change is the start of everything else. Then for short term, because it requires a bit more time to come up with Siri, we need a bit more time for Avinash, although he doesn't sleep, to make sure that the funding is now readily available to the most needy, powerless, and voiceless. And how does Dilam and his batch of friends, they are so committed to helping SMEs in a very authentic manner, right? Push the so-called SME box. And finally, long-term, for us to be really Industry 5.0, long-term means more than 18 months, right? Yeah, more than 18 months. It still fall within the 3 years before we reach the tipping point 2025. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm very grateful for those of you who choose to stay. I know how serious you are. So therefore, it's time for me now to pass the floor to our host, Dr. Vikram. Can we give him a round of applause, please?
Thank you. Thank you, Chipeng. Thank you for having moderated this panel. And I would like the floor to give a big hand of applause to Chipeng. He's been a master moderator. So thanks to all of our panelists, Roshan, Vikas, Nishti, Dilam, Avinash, and Jenny and Shiba. Thank you all for attending here. As you are aware, the road doesn't stop here. The work starts now. What we would like is to have, as Chipeng started his speech, his moderation, a shared responsibility. Innovation is not the only responsibility of the Mauritius Research Innovation Council. It's the responsibility of each and every one of us. And we hope that together we will be able to push this country forward. Together we can innovate. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to share your views on our different platforms, or just walk by Eben Heights, 6th floor, and come to see us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
SME box, I'm going after you now. And funding. Thank you, sir. Can we take a group photo? Photographer? Come. You sit right middle. Right, come. Ladies first. Ladies. Can we take photo? Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.